I'd just like to give a bit of a round of applause, but also I'd like to tell you a little story, if I can, just before I hand over to Michael Avery. My mother-in-law passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's an estate which has to be wrapped up and so on and so forth. There were some complications because she didn't live here and so on and so forth, lived up north in Zim. And with Capital Legacy, we actually employed them because there was some of the estate was here. And for 2 years, they've been working quite hard at it. Not full 2 years, but there's things that have to happen in the estate, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you, they are the most professional people that I've ever dealt with. So if you haven't got a will, or if you haven't used their services, I'd suggest you do so. Because I have been nothing but really, really impressed with the team. They, give you all the feedback you need. They do all the work. They do everything. They really are good. My little personal endorsement this afternoon, because it was wrapped up sort of like today, Friday today, and I thought it was worth mentioning. They really have been very good. Capital Legacy, your number one provider of wills.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me right in Solomon's Temple. Once again, I'm Solomon Izangi Shams, and it's so good to be with you. Thank you for being here. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Solomon's Temple. That's important. Fanta Sanko from Freetown, Sierra Leone. Thank you so much. Good to have you here. That girl, Mvubu, from ECAP, from Cape Town. Good to have you here also, and everybody who is watching. So there's this piece of news that is sort of like trending in the US, and I just to share that with you. It's a piece by a pastor who actually said that he is willing to teach young people, black men in his church, how to grow weed, cannabis. What do you call it in South Africa? Nigeria, they call it Igbo. For those of you guys who listen to Burna Boy, that his song Last actually promotes Igbo and Shayo, so alcohol and weed, marijuana. So that's Pastor Jamal Bryant. He's the pastor of New Birth Church in Atlanta in the US. This is Pastor Jamal Bryant. He himself is very controversial because he had relationship with teenagers when he was married, got divorced, and a whole lot of stuff, but very brilliant man, and now he took charge of the church of Pastor Eddie Long, who died, who himself was accused of having relationship with boys, and then he passed away. It's sad how he passed away. I've met Eddie Long and I have interviewed him. And so now he took over that church in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is what he has to say about this whole weed thing, right? He said, I will be able I will be able to bring in black males. They're able to do it legally. I'm teaching them farming. I'm helping them to enhance the ecosystem. This is the kind of conversation. So if the guy, black boy in black hat, said they're growing wheat at the church, where do I join? I don't need no platform for him. So he's saying like, look, would be a good way to get black men to church. And he's not after people who are in another church or Christians. He's after people who are not churched, who are unchurched, and teaching them farming, to farm weed, to farm cannabis. Marijuana is the way to go, if need be. And I understand his thinking totally, and I'm all for evangelizing the unsaved. But should a church really get involved in something that's controversial and the laws are still legally, the laws haven't given the green light to go into that? And I'm not against farming weed, guys. You don't just smoke weed, right? You also use it for women's hair. You use it for a lot of prescription medical situations. There are a lot of illnesses and diseases that some of the medicines that you use, there needs to be some sort of weed in it. I'm not for people who smoke weed, because for me, first, it's against it's against your body. You smoke weed to get high. It's against your body. You're destroying your body. New Zealand just made a law yesterday where actually people who are born from 2009 and above. So if you were born from 2009 going into the future, they're not gonna sell cigarette to you because they're trying to stop. They want to stop people from smoking totally. They don't want to sell cigarettes totally because smoking kills 4 million people every year. And some of them are not even smokers. Some of them are just passive smokers because they're in an environment where other people were smoking. So it affects them. So do you think using farming wheat it's a way to go in trying to evangelize and attract men to church? And if you're a farmer, you want to farm wheat, I mean, that's all good because you can sell it to pharmaceutical companies who could use it to produce medicines that would help people heal, that would help people recover, that would help people get treatment. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. But should an institution, should a church actually spearhead this sort of initiative? I understand it's a very cutting edge, top of the range initiative. Totally understand it. And that's Jamal Bryant for you because he's a very intelligent guy and very smart guy. He's a or third generation pastor in his family. Even though morally, I don't really upheld him in any regard. Morally, for me, he's yes. But his gifts are there. And there are a lot of Black people who stay away from church. If you go to a lot of Black American churches, they are women, far more women than men. What do you do to attract men to church? What do you do to attract sinners to church? Would you go to that level that he is suggesting? Farming wheat, no sense. Or are you just trying to create it as a business? If you're creating it as a business, I understand. But if you're using it to attract people, then it seems like you're okay. Smoking is a sin. Smoking is not really a sin. The Bible is not point blank about it. But the fact that you're destroying your body, it's common sense that you know that this is something that even a church should not even tolerate or encourage. Would people who smoke make heaven? Yes, some of them would make heaven. It depends on your relationship with God. So when I read this, I was like, look, I understand your cutting edge idea of trying to do certain things, in certain ways. But we need to be able to look at some of these things and ask ourselves, is it really worth it? How would that be a good testament of the church? Would that be a good testimony of the church? How do you even manage it? Because it could become complicated. Because we've seen a lot of churches in Africa using creative ways to reach out to and church people. Great. But at the end of the day, how are we going to make sure that we're not going to create another problem, or we're not going to allow people to begin to think there are certain things that they could do in church that could be destructive to their bodies? Anyway, thank you for watching. Something to think about. Please make sure you subscribe. I'll see you again later. Shalom.